Hello, AWE TV here with Corey King from ZenFri. Hello, Corey. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
We wanted to find out what you think about augmented reality. Actually, talk about your company first, ZenFri. What do you do? Your
Sure.
game. Let the audience.
Do you want me to look at the camera? Okay, cool. ZenFri is a creative arts and entertainment company. We do a wide range of mediums. We currently have 2 films in production, a live action and animated film. We've done gallery work, we're producing a book, and we're working in augmented reality currently. Our main focus is to tell stories, and we tell stories in whatever medium that story requires. And in the case of augmented reality, the tools aren't necessarily there to tell stories yet. But that doesn't stop us. We're gonna try to be the ones to try to figure out how to tell a compelling story with the technology, because this is where we think the story needs to be told.
So you talk about augmented reality and it not being where you think it needs to be. What do you think needs to happen for it to be able to do the things you're trying to do?
Well, essentially, it's an infant technology. It's a new technology, maybe not infant, but it's a new technology, and it hasn't been brought into the mainstream yet. And our feeling is one of the best ways historically in film or radio or television to introduce a new technology to a mass audience, to take it out of a fringe or industrial and commercial setting, is to present a story. That's what sort of made the difference with film between just being something that they showed at like a tech demo or at circuses, to being a mass media that people went specifically to see, was creating that narrative experience. The thing with AR is currently, there's things that need to be invented, there's design ideas that need to be conceived, where with film it's like editing, the idea of camera moves, those things had to come into existence, and you had to make changes to things like acting and lighting from theater to make it more applicable to film before it was a viable strategy to tell a story. And so for us, we see that as our place within augmented reality, is to be one of the pioneers of figuring out what those new design ideas are, what those new narrative ideas are that can make it so that it is a story experience that really feels legitimate, as if it's in the world. And we think the key to that is to not ignore reality. A lot of AR games, especially, it's sort of reality superfluous. It's just kind of like, it's just out in the air randomly, or it's on your table, and it doesn't really. For us, it's all about understanding the environment, about using GPS, about using weather data, not right now, but in the future, using face tracking, things like that, to really get a grounded sense of where you are in reality. And the more you know about reality, and the more you make your story work with reality and augmented reality, the more you create a compelling experience that utilizes the technology.
Awesome, awesome. So your game does a very good job of all these things you're talking about. Can you talk about your game?
Sure.
How'd you come up with it? The process of building it. I know you worked with Mateo.
Yep.
The process of that. Can you just talk about that?
Sure. So our game's called Clandestine Anomaly. It's a primarily GPS-based augmented reality game. It sort of takes some leads from alternate reality gaming, where you are really the person in the game. You're the actual character, is you. Tower defense mechanics, which are something that's very popular and very successful to do on an iPad, and things like that. And and we think that these are sort of the ways to start founding this new way to tell stories. The idea actually came before I knew anything about augmented reality. When I first had an iPhone, it was an iPod Touch, but I understood a phone existed and what it could do. And I held it in my hands, and after having it for about 4 hours, I just sort of imagined that if not then soon, that this technology would be able to basically turn the whole world into a canvas for storytelling. Being from film, filmmakers often gloat compared to other mediums that they have the biggest. Oh, look at it's IMAX, we have the biggest. And I sort of think they're wrong. I think that the biggest canvas is the world, and now let's figure out how to make that canvas actually something valid and successful. But I didn't know what AR was. I just sort of knew, like, we could put 3D objects in here, GPS, there's all these little things that the technology could do, like there's mapping, there's graphics. It was probably possible. But I sort of didn't get engaged with it right away, because I'm not an engineer. I've never done anything with engineering. So I sort of held back on it until I started hearing more about augmented reality, started hearing about geolocative games, and went, I have to move now. I think now is the right time. The technology is adequately developed. And still, there doesn't seem to be anybody who has the same concept of how to pioneer it the way I do. And I think that I believe I have a vision for how to do it. It might not be right, but that's something that if we do it now, it has the maximum benefit of both helping the community learn with me how to do it, and also, if you're successful, it's a lot cheaper to get involved in a medium, especially a mass medium, on the early days. If you wait till it's very well developed and established, you need millions and millions of more dollars than we could possibly get.
Makes sense. That makes sense.
And with Mateo, basically my technical director, we had several options. We were even considering doing it, like just building it all from scratch ourselves. We did try Vuforia, and we tried AR. We had researchers from universities that were lined up. And when it came to cost benefit and specifically to our usage of GPS, it just Mateo it was the strongest. It was most easy to integrate with Unity and Google Maps for our specific purposes. We do think Vuforia is a great technology for markers, and there is markers in our game. Like my shirt is actually a marker. You don't need to buy this stuff to play the game, but if you want that additional benefits, then you can buy it. But we still use Mateo for that as well. But basically, it just, when it comes to non-marker based solutions, Mateo was a superior product. And for me, like Steve Jobs always talks about how the iPad would have failed if you needed a cursor. I kind of feel AR will not go into the mainstream if you require the extra step of having to get a marker. It will work in certain niche environments, but if I had to constantly go and print, or if there's that extra barrier to me getting it, I think it's a lot more successful if you can just turn it on and the world lights up with this environment.
That makes sense. So you're obviously in gaming. How do you see gaming affecting the growth of augmented reality?
I mean, I see, I'm in gaming so much as this is my first game.
Okay.
But it's cool. No, I mean, I tell stories, and I think, for me, I don't think in the end of the day that this is going to be necessarily considered a game. I think that this game will be as to games as TVs is to movies. It will share certain fundamental principles. It'll share, camera moves, actors. There's a lot of things that are similar, but the format, how it's expressed, how it's experienced, will be fundamentally different from other games. And I think it has to be, because if AR is going to exist on its own and be its own thing, it can't be a tack on. It can't be something that you simply impose over an existing strategy. You have to come up with a new strategy to make it work. But it will be an interactive narrative experience that carries on from games. And I think that that's the reason that we chose that as opposed to just strictly, telling a story that wasn't interactive is basically, again, it comes into reality. If these things are really real, these characters and things you're showing me, if that actually exists, I should be able to touch them. I should be able to interact with them.
So that's
if you can't have that interaction, it again diminishes the sense that it's really there in the environment. So it just came as that natural part of you are, the reality. It's in your neighborhood. You are the player. If it's really happening to you, there should be agency. There should be things you can do to change and alter the course of the world. And currently, gaming is the closest example we have where players can actually impact in that way.
So you're basically creating interactive storytelling as opposed to games.
I mean, there's not a name for it yet. We call it emergent, like some emergent reality, but there's so many terms and so many different, everyone's trying to coin their own term. So I don't necessarily care what it's called, but it has a lot of inspiration from games, emergent reality games, geolocative games, geocaching, a lot of inspiration from all of those game types. But, and maybe initially it will seem very close, but I think down in the long term, the experience of doing something on a screen and the experience of doing something out in the world is fundamentally different and sort of deserves to be treated as its own specific genre or communication medium.
Okay, so you're pretty new to augmented reality. Have you been here before?
I'm new to just conferences in general. This is like my third conference, and definitely my first. I didn't even know about this conference like 3 months ago.
Nice.
But they found out about my project, Ori, and asked me to come and speak here and participate in the Augie Awards. So I came, and this is my first time. This is the first time I've actually shown the game to augmented reality aficionados. Generally, people have no idea what you're talking about until you show them. And so usually there's the barrier is when you're describing it, you got to go through all the steps of
the technology,
explaining it to them. And it's usually just better to say, you know what, I'll shut up and just show you. Where here it's sort of a different game where they're already there with you. And it's about telling them the other things of how you're going to take that technology and make it viable. So it's been different in how I need to communicate, but I think it's been pretty warmly embraced. Like, it's still fairly early. We still have about a year left in development, but from what I've seen, I'm pretty happy with where we sit in the panic, with the other people out there, what they're doing. I feel like what we're doing with the space we're working in is new, and that no one else is really doing what we're doing with the narrative focus and things like that. So I was happy to come here and see where the rest of the industry is. I kind of knew, like, you did research and stuff. I mean, I think getting glasses to work is extremely important to having the technology really become successful.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it was good to come down here and actually, see where this community is and where we, where we think we fit into it, and to come here and have a lot of that validated was very, very, very important experience.
Awesome. So, thank you for coming and talking with us.
Sure.
AWE TV, Corey King, ZenFri.